You're listening to Excellence Above Talent, a podcast where we have the hard conversations about the lives of men and what leads us to achieve greatness and suffer defeat. Hear from other men's journeys as well, as we all learn and grow together to become inspirations to ourselves and those around us. And now your host, Aaron Thomas.
What's up, my beautiful people? Aaron Thomas with Excellence Above Talent. Here with one of the hardest working men I know, Joshua Reyes. So tell the people about you, Joshua.
Awesome. Hey, thank you for having me on, Aaron. It's an absolute pleasure. Always amazing to hang out with you. So just a couple quick things, I guess. I own a couple businesses, so nothing too crazy. I got a spa downtown Odessa, Revival Float Spa. Other than that, pretty boring life, man.
Such a lie. He's 100% lying to y'all. He is a jiu-jitsu specialist.
Oh, no.
He goes into tournaments and kicks everyone's asses. He's humble. He's saying he tries, but he has, I think the last tournament you had like 3 golds and 1 silver. Yeah. So I'm not sure. That's not trying. That's world domination right there.
Well, I'm just doing the best that I can.
I got you. So again, this podcast we want to talk about the mentality, the mindset of men, and how we can create higher value men, push men to be better for themselves, hold men accountable for their actions. And so my number one question always is the suicide rate in men. Men are 3.5 times more likely to commit suicide than women. Yeah. That percentage is 75%. So when you think about people killing themselves each day, 75% of those people are men. And so that's something that I dislike. It's something that I've dealt with myself, with friends, taking their lives. And so my question to you is, why do you think the suicide rate is so high within men?
Well, I guess we're just taking a deep dive.
Yeah, we're just there's no fluff with my game, man. There's none whatsoever.
We did not even warm up, man.
We can do the fluff later on. Yeah, I like talking about the real deal now.
Man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, this is a hard topic, big topic. A lot of people just kind of shy away from even talking about this, and I think that's ultimately the biggest problem. So I really applaud your efforts and everything that you do for other people, to give them a platform to be able to speak about this. And, I think you're doing a really good job with that. So that, I think, is the start of the solution of what basically you're bringing up, right? Is when it comes to suicide, everybody's just like, hush, don't talk about it, whatever, keep it to yourself, with feelings and everything like that. But like I said, you're asking a very loaded question. I think it has to do more with societal norms than anything. And I think, we kind of had our upbringing. We're both older, right? So back in the day, we used to say, man, everybody just had tough skin. You could literally fight with somebody, and then immediately after that, once the score was settled or whatever, then you're just like, you go on about your lives. You didn't go and complain. You didn't go cry. You didn't go tattletale. You didn't do all these things. And the people who were watching, they weren't offended for you, right? Yeah. Now, these days, somebody says something and they're offended for you. They're like getting into your business, and they have no business doing that. You see that constantly all over the place. But to your question, where I think it kind of originates is just our social upbringing. That macho man-dominant society, or male-dominant society, if you will. That's just how we're kind of looking at it, right?
Yeah.
But where the man had to be the provider, they had to be the problem solver, they had to do everything and show no pain, no weakness, nothing.
Yeah.
And if they did, they were not worthy of being a man, and they weren't able to show or let out any of those feelings, you know. And ultimately, when you bottle all that stuff up, that's going to lead to some way, somehow, it's going to come out. And that'll be in like physical abuse. That could be in alcoholism. It could be in a variety of different ways, which when you look at the numbers and, these suicide rates, you look at what it was, and obviously most people who have those thoughts, they have that in their past, whether it's themselves or their parents. You see that they're getting physically abused or whatever, mentally, all of the abuses that there are. Or they're looking to drugs and alcohol and different things, right? And, some people will say, oh, no, I just do it to take the
relief
load off.
Stress. Yeah,
relief stress. And then I'm like, hey, that's like the gateway to that.
Yeah.
Like, that should not be the way that you're relieving stress. But if it's just to hang out with friends and have a good time, then that's a little different than, man, I don't want to feel anything.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking that way, then obviously, there's deeper issues, and you're using alcohol to forget or to not feel for a while. And I think it's that numbing sensation, whenever you are doing that. If you can become aware of that, then that's going to be our first step of, trying to minimize the suicide rate.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like I said, a loaded question.
Yeah, for sure. But I want people to really get into that mindset when they come in here, just like, hey, this is going to be, we're going to be pulling on some heavy topics, and this topic right here, it's kind of near and dear to my heart because, one of my buddies that was in the Army committed suicide, and it kind of set me on this path of like wanting to find out, ways that we can help men not commit suicide. One thing that I feel contributes to it is sometimes men don't have like that purpose in their lives, or they don't know their why. They assume, kind of like what you said, they're providers and protectors, and that's all they are. But at the end of the day, we're more than just providers and protectors. We are people who have feelings, emotions, we have hobbies, we have things we want to accomplish and do in our lives. And so it's just something that you can tell, people, how to find that purpose or how to find your why in life.
Starting with why. That is what ultimately drives you. And this is the forefront of not just how we do business, how we live our lives, but also how we interact with people. And the best way that I can describe it is everyone can tell you what they do. A fewer percentage of them can say how they do it, right? And an even smaller percentage, extremely rare, can tell you why. Okay? And it is this equivalent, okay? Whenever we're talking about things like this, you can say, I don't know why, but I just have a gut feeling. Okay, that is literally the instinct, and there are no words for that section of your brain. It's like the innermost section of your brain. And that is the why part, okay? And the why part, there are no words for it, but it's a feeling, right? And more or less if you can trust someone. But it's that. So I'm just kind of backtracking a little bit. So how do we get that out of someone who ultimately has repressed all of their feelings? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
So you're basically saying, people who have always hidden their feelings or have been afraid to show weakness and pain and all those things, they are definitely not going to share that. So now we have to think, how can we get them to share that? Well, first we have to start with the what, how, and then we can get to the why.
Gotcha.
Right? So what do they love to do, right? What do they love doing that they don't feel like it's work? And then that's where we can start to open up their minds to a possibility, in terms of being able to open up. And then we can say, all right, now how can we make that happen? And then we'll ultimately get to why.
I like that.
Yeah. So it's very sequential. It's just the way that the human brain works. But it is ultimately pattern recognition,
So what, how, why?
What, how, why.
And that, honestly, it breaks it down. Find your what, things you enjoy, things you like.
Yeah.
The how part. How do you, bring this into the community? How do you bring this out and into a business proposal?
Yeah.
And then your why. So it's kind of like reverse engineering, right? So people always talk about what's your why? Instead of saying like, what's your why? Maybe, let's have the conversation of like, what do you like first? And then we'll find your why from there.
Exactly. So instead of deep diving into why, because everybody gets dumbfounded or they're stumped because they're like, you know?
Yeah.
And most people are going to give these very generic answers.
Yeah.
They're going to say, well, I like to help people. Well, I want to make money. Well, I
Yeah.
want to do this. But until you get to the nitty gritty of, look, if we don't make money, if we're not able to make ends meet, then, you know, we're going to have to completely change our lifestyle. We may be out of a house, you know. That's whenever you get the real why. Whenever your back's against the wall and you have no choice but to move forward or but to be able to do something, then you're going to start to make it happen, you know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, you know, live as, let's just say, bystanders or spectators.
For sure.
You know. So what I mean by that is, instead of being an active player, I'm big on sports. So let's think football, right? I think football, everybody's a player in their life, or they can be a spectator and watch their life happen. But I guarantee you that no matter what, life will find a way to knock you down. So do you want to get knocked down as a player, or do you want to get knocked down as a spectator?
Yeah.
You know, even if you're sitting watching your life go by, you will still get knocked down.
Yeah.
Might as well try.
Yeah. Wow, that boy's out here spitting all this knowledge, man. God damn. Yeah, no, you get in here, man.
Hey, I'm just speaking from the heart, man. You know?
So what is your definition of a high value man?
So there are 3 words ultimately that come to mind whenever I think about someone who is high value. Okay, I think the ultimate value add, if you will, is someone who gives. Okay,
Gotcha.
For me, you can never expect to receive anything if you haven't given first, right? So give first, right? Whenever, you know, we had a president, he had a very famous, quote. He said, ask not what this country can do for you, but what can you do for this country? And we've strayed away from that. And ultimately, that obviously had some other political meanings behind it, but take it for what it is. And I think that the people who really are the movers and shakers, the people who have the biggest impact on people, are the ones who give, the ones who serve.
Gotcha.
You know? And you've got to start there. So give and then grow. You've got to grow as a person. You always got to be looking at what can we do to better yourself so that you can give more value. And ultimately that feeds into giving, you know. How can you be more valuable to someone else? Because you will never be worthy of receiving things if, again, you haven't given, right?
Yeah.
So you grow. When I say grow, I don't mean taller.
Yeah.
Right? We can't do anything with our height.
My little nephew thinks he can.
But our weight is a little different, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Weight is 100% up to you. Yeah.
But what I think is, how can you grow mentally?
Gotcha.
You know, maybe in education, go to school, or how can you grow in whatever it is that you chose that you like to do? How can you grow to learn more about that, right?
Yeah.
And then last is gratitude, right? So 3 G's,
Triple G.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. So, and just try to keep it simple. It's very easy to talk about these things.
Why is it important to have gratitude or to show gratitude?
Yeah, and that's it. Is nobody's ever going to give to you if you're not gracious for it.
Ooh,
right?
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But with that said, the people that we are talking to, you were saying we're repressing feelings, right? And I am super guilty of this. Okay,
Yeah.
like I am one of those people. I will hide behind my wall of knowledge, and I mean, ultimately, we can have a conversation, and you can maybe not be let in. You know what I mean? Like you'll just have all this superficial information, and that's fine. But at the same time, there have to be people that you can share with.
Yeah.
Right? So in that, what we've just created, we said we give, we grow, and we have gratitude, right?
Yeah.
In order to have gratitude, you have to be able to receive. And I think for me, that was one of the hardest things, is to be able to receive. Because I want you to think about this. How good do you feel when you give to somebody? You volunteer all the time.
Yeah.
You know, you're in several organizations. You do this all the time. How good does that make you feel?
If I'm having a bad day and I go and I volunteer and help somebody, I leave always better than I came.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to think about this. You go and volunteer, and the person who went over there said, I don't need your help. Get out of my face. How would that make you feel?
Kind of upset.
Really bad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so what they did is they broke the circle of giving.
Got you.
By cutting off you being able to give, they said they don't want to receive. They made you feel bad, and they feel bad.
Got you.
This is the circle of giving. So when you give to another person, and it makes you feel amazing, right? There's really not a feeling like it. Whenever you give, you know you made somebody's day better. Right?
Yeah.
And this person who you gave to was able to receive.
Yeah.
And that is the circle of giving.
I
right?
like that, yeah.
Now, with that said, how many times have you turned away help or turned away somebody trying to give you something, and you took that away from them for them to be able to feel good about giving?
A lot more than I could say. And it's something that I've now, becoming more self-aware of.
Yes.
I see it with my friends when someone's like, hey, here's money. And they're like, no, don't worry about it. And I always tell them, hey, man, accept your blessing.
Absolutely.
Like you just recently gifted me something.
Yeah.
And a year ago, I'd been like, hell no.
Yeah.
You can't. No, I'm not going, you're not going to gift it to me. I'm not taking it. But now, I understand that, it's a cycle that happens. And I know that, what you do will come back, especially if you're not looking for something. And so, when you're like, hey man, I want to gift this to you.
Yeah.
My first initial was like cringe, like, oh no, I don't want to accept a handout, or I don't want to think like, I can't afford it. Like, first initial thoughts. But after a while, I was like, no, man, he wants to see you do better and be better. And so accept what he's trying to give you. Absolutely. And then, pay it forward to somebody else.
Yeah. So 3 things of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 1, this was literally one of the hardest things. So for me to be able to grow, right? The middle one.
Yeah.
This was one of the hardest things is to receive.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I don't want to make it about religion, but I think a lot of people do pray. I do pray. You pray for things. You ask God to provide. You ask someone, whoever it is, you ask the universe to provide. But whenever you cut off being able to receive, you don't know the form that you're being provided.
Got you.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're praying for something, but you're cutting it off. So when are you really going to receive it?
And you're expecting someone from another avenue to give it to you, and it's someone maybe lesser than you think, and then they're trying to give it to you, and you're like, no, I can't take from them.
And that's why you always need to be able to receive,
Got you.
So number 2, this is for you, right? What we were talking about is like you receiving, but the people that we're talking about people who have repressed their feelings and different things, and it makes them lesser of a man or lesser of a person to receive, and that cannot be.
Gotcha.
Right? So we have to make sure that they are willing to receive as well.
Gotcha.
And then third is what I would call a scarcity mindset. The people who don't want to receive think that there is a finite or limited amount of resources in the world, and they don't want to take from it because then they're perceived as stingy or stealing or taking or, ultimately inconveniencing someone else.
Yeah.
And that is a scarcity mindset that will ultimately be your downfall, if you will.
Okay. Gotcha.
So what we should have instead of scarcity, we should have abundance, and know that when you take this, you are going to be able to give and pay it forward tenfold.
Yeah.
Because who knows, whatever you do with that, it's your time of need.
Yeah.
But you, personally, I know that you volunteer a crap ton,
yeah.
And you give way more than you actually receive.
Gotcha.
So if we put hours worked versus how much you've actually taken in, I guarantee you, even at minimum wage, that number that you've given is 10 to even 100 times more than you've actually allowed people to give you.
Yeah. Yep, that's good for a podcast, right?
Yeah. As long as you don't come this way.
All right. Coronavirus.
Oh, yeah. You asked me what makes a man, you say high value, but I just say what ultimately makes a good person.
Yeah.
And I think it is those 3 things. Someone who gives, someone who grows, and someone who has gratitude.
Gotcha.
And I think that's something that you should do every single day, right? For me, you should always be gracious. Every single day I start, every single day I end. I start with gratitude, whether it's a prayer or, thank God for everything that I've been given and everything that's to come, right? Yeah. And then on the other 2, I ask myself, did I give today or did I grow today? And then I kind of reflect on what I did.
Gotcha. Man, that's tough. I like that. I also like the fact that you said scarcity and abundance. So I read a book and it's called,
Those are big topics.
Yeah. So I read a book and it was called Fixed and Growth Mindset.
Those are.
And that's exactly kind of what you were saying. Like the fixed mindset, you're limiting yourself. You're saying what you can't do.
Yeah.
The growth mindset is like, man, what if even if I can't do it, I'm still going to try.
Yeah.
Because in that trying, other doors are open, right? So maybe you're not good at what it is that you're trying to do, but in that trying, you find something that you really like to do. You find out what you get that how, and now you know your why.
There you go.
And I think that's the beauty of kind of, just going out there and doing something and trying to figure it out without trying to make it perfect.
That's it.
Because it's never going to be perfect.
It's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, and this is why I tell people, let's start with what. Because what is something tangible that we can get our minds around.
Yeah.
Why is not. Why is not something. Until you've gotten started and you're moving and you're like, oh man, you know what? This is really working. I can do it and whatever. And then you're starting to say, okay, you know what? This is why I do what I do every day. And I mean, if this makes me happy, because we started with something tangible, something that we could grasp, those little tangible goals, we achieve them over time. Then we start to understand how we do it. We refine those processes, and then we get to the why. And then that's whenever everything just kind of amplifies.
I got you. I start off each of my classes, because I go to the detention centers and I speak to the kids. I have a males empowerment group at Ector College Prep School. I got to say that correctly. I'm not sure if I said it correctly. But every time I go and I speak to people or I speak to kids, the first activity I ever do is your name. Give me an affirmation. Tell me something that you like about yourself, because it's so easy to talk down on yourself. Absolutely. It's the easiest thing to do is to tell yourself, how you're not good at something. And so I want to reverse that mindset of tell me what you like about yourself. Tell me what, you do that's good. And then gratitude. Find something to be thankful for, because if you're living, you have so much more to be thankful for than not.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think, one or two bad things happen throughout the day, and that's the whole entire day. Yeah. The whole entire day is ruined. Versus it being okay, let it ruin 30 minutes of your day, and then go get back into being grateful and affirmations and showing gratitude, because life will eventually get better. Absolutely.
So just kind of referring back to sports, like you said, I love sports.
Yeah.
You will never, ever, ever play a perfect game.
For sure.
You will always make mistakes. Yeah. Right? So whenever these athletes, these are just the highest tier athletes, so when they make mistakes, do you see them having a pity party off on the floor? They just messed up. They missed a tackle. They did something wrong. Do they walk off the field and just sit down and their day's done? No.
Yeah.
What do they do instead? They said, okay, you know what? I messed up. I'm going to do it better next time. And then now they're ready to go. Shake it off, forget it, because dwelling on it is not going to do anything but hurt yourself. Yeah. And talking negatively to yourself is not going to fix it either. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But what happens? Your teammates come around and they say, hey, you know what? We're going to make up for it. Let's go. Yeah. And you got people that are around you that are going to help you, right? So there's two things to there. One, if you dwell on whatever it is that you messed up, because we're all going to make mistakes.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
I make mistakes every single day.
Yeah. What? You?
Every single day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And okay, no. And I actually want to add to that.
Okay.
Whenever we mess up, right? Mm-hmm. You can either do it one of two ways. You can say, all right, I need to dwell on this, whatever, and blah, 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 and I'm just going to sit here, whatever, and fold, right? And obviously we know that that's not good, but it's just an easy pattern, right? But what we can do instead is, all right, you know what? I did mess up. I'm going to own up to it, but now I know what to not do. Mm-hmm. So then let's move forward. And the other thing I said was we have teammates, right? We got people around us. Whenever you're going to speak, you're speaking to not just one person, but multiple, right? Mm-hmm. So you're looking around the room, you're like, you know what? All these people are just like me. These are the people that, hey, we need to help build each other up. We can't be pushing each other down, right? Yeah, yeah. So with that said, you always need to surround yourself with the right people, and I think you're the right people, mm-hmm. especially for them, but you need to show them how to find more right people, because I guarantee you, if they stick around the wrong crowds, they're going to continue to make the same mistakes, Yeah. So those are the two things I would say right there. But, we were talking about mistakes, mm-hmm. right? And I think a lot of people, I think it's really easy to look at a person and think, man, that person is just so successful. Man, that person has it easy. man, that person, whatever. You start to do these things. And me, I don't like to have that mindset. So that is another thing that I would say, hey, we need to work on. Because when you start to think that someone else has a better life than you, it's because you're thinking, again, from that scarcity mindset that because they have a good life, you cannot.
Yeah.
Okay. The way it should be is, hey, that person has a good life. I want to be like that person. And there's plenty of room for me to be just like that person. What is the difference between that person and you where you are right now? Is probably that they've made more mistakes than you.
Yeah.
Okay. The people who are the most successful have failed 100 times more than they've had successes.
For sure.
And that's the truth. And the thing is all these people who are so afraid to make mistakes are basically so caught up in the fear of messing something up, of the little things going wrong, that they won't let the big things go right.
Yeah.
So
I have a love-hate relationship with the word mistake.
Okay.
Because I feel like there are mistakes and there are choices. So in my bachelor's class, when I taught guys, the guys would always tell me it was a mistake to hit her, or it was a mistake that I slept with her best friend. And I'm like, so explain to me, how you slept with her best friend. Like, you were tripping, you fell, your clothes fell off, her clothes fell off, and you mistake. I mean, was it like? So mistakes and choice to me are like the two. Like, I guess you can kind of say it would be like a different mindset.
Absolutely.
I love
it.
You can say, oh, I made mistakes. I made all these mistakes, and mistakes are kind of like I can like kind of it's okay. Yeah. But if I put it on myself, I made that bad choice, or I made that choice to do this or do this. It takes away. It puts more pressure on you to be more, like, I guess, more accountable for your actions versus. It's a mistake, so I'll just, I'll wipe it away and I'll just try to figure it out from the next time forward. So.
And normally I would make that distinction. I do think everything is a choice.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously I do like that distinction that you just made, so thank you.
Yeah.
But with that said, okay, everyone, we have choices to make every single day.
For sure.
And not making a choice and not making a decision is a choice.
Gotcha.
It's still a choice.
Yeah.
So whether you view it as a mistake or what have you, it's still going to be, we're moving forward, right? The best way I can say it is, I don't know, have you ever taken care of a yard or a lawn or something like that? Yeah. What is the natural tendency? We just let it go. It did its own thing. And we come back a year later, what's it going to look like?
Oh, it's going to grow. It's going to have weeds all in it. It's just, yeah.
And that is it 100%, okay? The act of not acting or not responding, not making a choice, ultimately are steps backwards.
Gotcha.
Because at the end of the day, we don't want weeds.
Yeah.
We don't want our grass to be overgrown, right? But those are the things that will happen if you take no action.
Yeah.
So it is work every single day to make yourself better. And that's why we say give, gratitude, give, grow, and gratitude, right? So we have to grow every day because it takes work to make the right choices, And yes, at some point, will you choose wrong? Yes, you will.
Yeah.
And you can't fault yourself because at the end of the day, the automatic default is to step backwards. So it takes work to continue to step forward.
Yeah.
And you cannot fault yourself because you took a step back, because that's the natural way that nature is. And last thing on that, in terms of choices, is you and, and our listeners and even me every single day. We all make choices, right? Sometimes we do something good, sometimes we do something bad, right? But ultimately, are we good or are we bad because of that choice? I'm going to say no, right? So just because you made a bad choice does not make you a bad person.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest distinction is that, we're dealing with people who feel like they're making the wrong choice repetitively.
Yeah.
And it is not that you are a bad person. It is that we made a bad choice.
Yeah. You're in a cycle that you somehow have to find a way to break.
Yeah. Absolutely. So now then the question becomes, how do we find that solution?
Yeah.
And again, I think it does come down to this and having conversations like this and knowing that there is a different way to think. Because at the end of the day, the mindset that you currently have, no matter what position you're in, is what got you there, or is what's keeping you where you are, or is what's keeping you in the cycle.
Yeah.
And until you decide that you are better than that, or you are ready to move up, you are ready to move forward, you will not break that cycle. And that's what these conversations are for. And I think that, you like just this whole platform, everything that you're doing, and you continuing to go speak at detention centers and things like that, I mean, just, I think the world of you for doing all that.
Yeah. I'm going to say something that really helped change my life. Because, I don't know why we're on mindsets, but we're on mindsets, and so we'll just stay there.
That always is, yeah.
But I looked at problems, and that was all I saw. Up until about maybe 28, 29, 30, it was problems, problems, problems. Mm-hmm. When I looked at something, all I saw was problems. And now, as the growth has happened, and I'm starting to be more self-aware of first myself and then my surroundings, when I look at things now, I'm more solution-oriented.
Yeah.
What can I do to fix that? Who can I talk to? Where can I go? Because the problems are always going to be there.
Always.
And if I'm always thinking about the problems, I'm always going to be in a negative state of mind. And so I just kind of flipped it on its head and was like, let me find solutions to these problems, because at the end of the day, no one's going to solve the problems that you have.
Right.
Like, no one's going to come in there and be like, hey, let's do this. Like, you have to essentially find those solutions to your problems. And then from there, I think it just kind of, it comes out. And then now you're able to see all different types of solutions to problems that you just didn't see before.
So just really quickly,
mm-hmm.
I think we get to speak of things, we get to dream.
Yeah.
Right? And we get to do all of that. Now, there are going to be some people, some listeners, some kids that you talk to that they're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Right? And at the end of the day, when you're in that survival mindset, there is no dreaming. You don't dream when you're trying to survive. Mm-hmm. Until your basic needs are met, mm-hmm. which is food, water, and shelter, mm-hmm. and then ultimately safety, right? But shelter and safety go together, I think. Mm-hmm. Until those needs are met, you'll never dream, and you'll be stuck in that mindset. So I think the biggest thing is, if you're in that survival mode, how do we get out?
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do we get out from there? And I think at some point we all find ourselves there in some form or fashion. Food and water, maybe we have those, but then I think shelter, shelter, safety, family, those literally go together. Mm-hmm. And if those ever break at any point, or it is your family that is breaking you, or, and that happens, but those three, I think if I really feel like I have a pretty good idea of who we're actually talking to. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that is where we're needing to focus. How do we fix that? How do we help them fix that? How do we help them change that? So in terms of their lives, yes, we can think mindset all day, but at the same time, they will have a tendency to want to go back and help family, or let their family break them down, or let their family keep them where they are. But at the end of the day, what can they do differently that's going to ultimately get them out?
Gotcha.
So I really feel like, you said you see problems and now we need solutions. Yes, I think that's going to be the solution is, one, we have to be able to talk about it. We have to realize that there's an issue first. So these people who are in survival mode, until they are ready to recognize and own up that they are in that situation, then they'll be ready to move forward. So, my thing is, hey, if you're in that situation, there are people to call, and mm-hmm. Aaron, I know you can provide a lot of contact information on people who are in that survival mode, and we can help you get out of that, break that cycle, mm-hmm. It is going to be one of the scariest things that you ever do, but they don't call it a leap of faith for nothing. It's not a leap of certainty, it's a leap of faith. And everybody says that they have faith, everyone says that they love God, they know God, they pray to God and things like that, or whatever it is. But until you challenge that, and you challenge just how strong you are as a person, or how strong your faith is, you'll never really know. and you'll continue to stay in that cycle, and we don't want that for anybody, right?
Yeah.
So especially you getting out and going above and all those things, this is how we're going to stay away from those high suicide rates, right? Because the people who are stuck in those cycles obviously don't want to be there, and they will be driven to that point of, I don't want to do this anymore, right?
Yeah.
So the only way that we can get out is to recognize that there is a problem, right? So in jiu-jitsu, there are situations, right? It is, everyone calls it like a chess match, but realistically it's somewhat like that. But if you don't understand what jiu-jitsu is, it's kind of like MMA, and it's fighting, and ultimately you're going to like make the other person submit, right? So let's just say it's you and you're fighting life, right? In jiu-jitsu, there are positions that you will get into that you can get out. But then there are some positions that you have let escalate so far that there's no choice but to submit, and you will ultimately lose, right? And I think that is how life is, right? There is so much that happens, on the road to suicide. Along the way, there's so many flags, there's so many signs and everything that we can stop at any point. But once you get too far, then it's over and we can't help them anymore, right?
Gotcha.
So with that said, I mean, the same thing in like jiu-jitsu, we can't let those things happen. If you get too far, you're too far gone, then, then it's too late, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're still going to try. So how do we get these guys out? We have to recognize the issue, and we've got to try to stop that before it escalates too far, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think something that really helped me in my life was becoming more self-aware.
Yeah.
I, for a long time, just didn't think about why I did the things I did. I just did them. Not being self-aware of how it's going to affect me or the lives around me. And once I started to do that, become more self-aware, I think my whole life just started to be better, because now there's a thought process of why I do what I do. Or if I do something bad, I now know, okay, man, this is the feelings that I had. This is what I was going through. These are my emotions. Like, let's get better.
Yeah. So exactly that. Remember why I said start with what, how, and then why?
Got you.
You didn't know why you did what you were doing.
For sure.
But that's why we start with what, is because it's tangible. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're looking at yourself. You know all the stuff.
Yeah.
But then why?
Yeah.
Right? So that's why it's always the same pattern.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
And I mean, I love that analogy, because, people always come, what's your purpose? What's your why? And people are like, well, I don't know. And I've been guilty of doing that too. What's your purpose? What's your why? And now I'm thinking about it. I mean, it's tough. Like, if you'd have came and told me like 4 years ago, what's your purpose? I'm like, man, I don't know. I'm here at the crisis center, and I'm, teaching these classes, and, this is probably what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. Not knowing that, this is probably, but this is my why. This is, what I feel like I was born to do. Have these conversations, have these tough conversations, be open, be vulnerable, be transparent, and to help as many men, but relationships and people and young boys as possible with information of like, hey, you don't have to go down this route. There's other routes you can go that make you happier, that makes your spouse happier, that can help grow your kid to be the best kid they can possibly be. It is, a question I feel we need to rephrase from like, what is your why, to like, what do you like to do?
That's it.
And then,
we'll
build on that.
Yeah, because just like I said, hey, that's a deep dive question.
Yeah.
That is. And most people are not used to harnessing that part of their brain.
For sure.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, it took you how long? Maybe a year, 2 years, or even all the way 4 years for you to realize what your why actually was.
Yeah.
And the thing is until you've done what you're doing and you start to realize, man, this is what I love.
Yeah.
I love doing this. I love the feeling that I get whenever I'm helping people or helping kids and men through their situations. And then you realize, man, this is what I'm called to do. And that is a beautiful feeling. I love the clarity. I love that you have that. And I don't think there's anyone better that could be doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. That's one thing that I'm also working on as well. Someone called me last night and they gave me a compliment, and I just made it super weird and super awkward. And then I realized, self-aware, I realized what I was doing, and I said, okay, hold on. Let's just rewind that back. forget the last 30 to 45 seconds that I just blabbered and tried to, not accept. And she was like, okay. And I was like, thank you.
That's it.
And then she started laughing, but I was like, that's all that needed to be said.
That's it.
But when someone says something nice, super awkward. And I start to like say other things and try to, deflect and like, oh no, it's not me. But just saying thank you and moving on also is key as well.
And that's it. And I'm going to say that just across the board.
Yeah.
I think everybody wants to say, oh no, I'm not that or whatever. I think I am super guilty of that as well, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. You're doing all this burping.
Yeah, I know, man.
Shoot, you're making me want to do it.
I know. What the heck is going on? Should have ate something. Yeah. I'm looking at those Oreos over there, dog.
That's what it is. Okay. So I think, when it comes to that, the best answer is exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Thank you. And sometimes I forget that. I need to remind myself that all the time. Thank you. That's it. Whenever somebody gives me a compliment, because to some degree, when you disagree with somebody who's giving you a compliment, you basically just call them a liar.
Mm-hmm.
And that's subconscious, right? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, whenever you're doing that, you're cutting off the circle of giving, and now they don't want to give you compliments anymore.
Yeah.
And then now you're going to be like, it just kind of escalates from there. But point being, just say thank you.
Yeah, just say thank you and then move on. Don't be awkward. So one thing that I feel is an issue for men is so I did a poll on Facebook and Instagram, and I asked the people, can men cultivate relationships? Mm-hmm. Keep them cultivated, make them healthy. A resounding, I would say 91% was like, no. Mm-hmm. Men don't know how to cultivate relationships. Men don't know how to keep relationships. And I started thinking of the relationships in my life and was I cultivating them? Mm-hmm. No. Ego and pride. Mm-hmm. I'm not finna call no guy and like talk.
You call me?
I know. Yeah.
I just kidding.
Like now I'm thinking about it. Like I'm not finna call and ask a guy, hey, you want to go bowling, bro? You know what I mean? Like it's the ego of like not wanting to put yourself out there because of society's norms of like that'll be weird or not normal. But now I'm thinking about it, like we need those relationships in our lives because men can call each other out on like their BS. Like, hey man, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Like if you have like those friends who are like good friends who want to see the best for you and they see you going down this path, they can call you out on your BS and say, hey man, you're going down the wrong path versus, not having those people. Like people you go to watch football games with. Yeah. You're watching football games and you're not talking about nothing deep. You're not talking about anything but football and probably women. Right. And so that's not a friendship. Those aren't really relationships because when you're in like a moment of need, you really can't call those people because they don't know anything about you. Right. So my question to you is, do you think men can cultivate relationships? And then if no, why? And if yes, why?
Okay, I got you. So again, always a loaded question. You just don't ask any easy questions.
Nah, there's no easy question. I don't believe in fluff, man. I don't know what that is.
Woo, okay, here we go. All right, so cultivating a relationship. Well, we have to think about what a relationship is, right? So when you have a relationship with somebody, I mean, is it superficial or is it actually a worthwhile relationship? Yeah. What you're saying. Okay? Yeah. Superficial. These are things. Hey, how's the weather? Hey, what's your favorite sports team? Hey, what do you like in women? Those are all superficial conversations. Yeah. And I will guarantee you 9 times out of 10, whenever you're going in talking to people just kind of out and about, you're going to talk about those 3 things. Well, maybe the first 2. So. Yeah. Okay. So let's make it a little less sexist. Yeah.
Not me because I'm very.
Yeah, but you can ask about the weather.
Yeah, for sure.
Weather. I mean, okay, this is Odessa. We have 2 weathers.
Yeah.
We got hot and we got a little cold, kind
Yeah.
of cold, and then we got super, super cold.
Yeah.
So it's weird weather.
That's 3.
Well,
Yeah. I'm just
whatever. We've got 2 main
two,
kind of
okay.
weathers. It's
I
like
got you.
dry and sunny.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're talking about what the weather. You see
Yeah,
what you did?
my bad. See, just like that.
I was trying to get deep and you freaking pulled back on me.
Put the chair back. Yes.
All right. Here we go. So, cultivating a relationship. We're looking at what is a relationship, and I think it's really like a deep. And I'm not going to say this to sound a certain way, but I mean it is an emotional connection, right?
Yeah.
And even me just trying to describe it, that almost feels like an antisocial norm, right? And when I say antisocial, I don't mean we're going to go and kill a bunch of people, but I mean like it is not within the societal norms to even talk about this, right?
Yeah.
So when I say an emotional connection, and you say that between 2 guys, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then now you're starting all these weird things, but that's not even how it is.
I got you.
Because that is what society says, right? So society always has these things, and for our listeners, you have to be ready to challenge society. There is no secret sauce for success, but there is a secret sauce for failure, and that is to try to please everyone, right? So if you try to please everyone, the one person you will guarantee not to please is yourself.
Facts.
Absolutely. So that's the main thing here, is that whenever we talk, we have to be able to speak openly, because even now, as I'm trying to describe it, I feel guarded. You know? So I'm like, okay, we have a very emotional connection, and for me to even say that, it's just like, right? So then I can't even say that openly. Like if we said that outside, we'd be like, oh, hey, they're nice looking.
So you can't say, Aaron, I love you on this podcast like right now?
I mean, I could, but that is a hard phrase for me
Josh,
to say to anybody.
I love you, man.
I love you.
Oh, you're so awkward right now.
I am, absolutely. But I can say, dude, much love.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I love you, Josh.
Right,
yeah.
I like that.
We got to work on that, man. I'm gonna start
you.
calling you randomly and just telling you I love you, and then let's just see what happens.
It's just Aaron.
Yeah.
For my daily love you call.
Yeah, for my daily love you call. Start accepting it.
Oh my goodness. So anyway, yes, I need to work on that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have my own things to work on.
I got you.
But then the question becomes, now that we know what a relationship is, can we cultivate that? And I'm going to say yes, as a question of potential. When you say, can someone do it? Do they have the potential to do it? Absolutely. Will they, or can they, in terms of personality-wise or accepting social norms or whatever, then when they have those types of things against them, then it would be harder, right? So at the end of the day, we began the conversation saying that men will repress their feelings. They're not willing to share certain things because they don't want to be perceived as weak, lesser of a man. And then the biggest one is fear of rejection. I think most people have this, right? And I think men have it even more amplified, right? So I think in terms of suicide, we look at men versus women. Men who actually ultimately pursue suicide will actually go through with it, because that is the way that we are in terms of when we say we're going to do something, it's going to happen. Versus maybe women, they may try and they're unsuccessful, or someone catches them and they're able to be saved, or that type of thing, So I think there's a degree of that as well.
Well, it's also different though too, because women don't put a gun to their head and pull the trigger.
You
You really can't come back from that if you're like, you know what, I'm just going to do it, and you pull the trigger, and you're gone.
And it's over.
Women will do more like the cutting and like the pills and things of that nature.
So more self-sabotage rather than it's over.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, is in terms of conviction, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So with that said, I think men have the same conviction in terms of withholding their feelings.
Gotcha.
So in terms of cultivating a relationship, until they are ready to just be open with their feelings or find somebody that they can ultimately be vulnerable with, then that's going to be that. Now, I think just a public service announcement. Okay? I don't know how they do this. But for women,
is that like, we're supposed to like have some music or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, So it's not a spoiler alert.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. My bad.
Okay. So anyway, I think women do have to understand that this is something that we as men deal with.
Yeah.
You know, we have so many people that we have to look strong for, especially our family.
Got you.
And
so let's kind of, I want to kind of dig deep on that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
we have to look strong, especially with our family.
Yeah.
Because if your wife or your kids see you flipping out and acting a fool or crying, that's going to create like a level of like, would it be like distrust or like, I don't know if this dude can really lead the family that he's supposed to be leading if he's giving me all these emotions.
Yeah.
Or do you have to be stoic like all the time and not be able to like express, how you're feeling and what's going on within you.
And I think it's exactly that is the more stoic approach.
Gotcha.
Just what is it that that keeps us ultimately from being able to share those things, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to say one, it's just patterns over time.
Yeah.
I mean, just the way that we grew up, kind of opened up with the society or whatever that we grew up with was very male, stoic,
dominant.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we hit everything and all that. So that's what I grew up with. And the results of that is, alcoholism, drugs, and all those things, right? And then you see that. And then now, as a child growing up, you're like, okay, well, I keep everything to myself, bottle it up, and then someday I'll die, right?
Yeah.
And then that's it. And you just go about life kind of holding it all in, right? So we are all men are emotionally constipated, essentially.
Yeah.
Just stuck in there.
Yeah.
And I think women don't have that perception, because I saw this TikTok and it was pretty funny, and it just said basically reasons why women hate men, and it's like, one, they don't talk enough, and then two, they talk too much, and then three, something like that. But basically, they were conflicting, and then the last one was like that they breathe. It's like a joke, right?
Yeah,
but some people will probably be offended by that. But the point that I'm trying to make is, women's definition of what a relationship is very different than what a man's is, right? So, and I'm just going to briefly touch on like love languages really quickly, but I'm going to say for a man, he is the provider, right? And in his mind, he thinks acts of service all day, right? Versus a woman, most of the time they're going to want quality time or something like that, right? One of those love languages. Are you familiar?
Yeah, I am. So touch and quality time,
those, right?
act of service,
Yeah, so you would go straight to touch, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 100% would go straight to touch. That's exactly why I'm touching your leg right now. Hey, you'll let me touch your leg, but you can't say I love you, man. Like, what in the world is going on?
You know what the same thing is like trade, right? Like, touch all day. Yeah. So anyway, my point is the man feels like he's providing 100 because he has a house. He's paying all the bills. He's providing food. He's doing all these things. Those are acts of service. Done. All day. My boxes are checked. Yeah. What else do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And then the woman is like, just spend time with me. We don't need all this stuff until you don't have all this stuff. And then it's like, well, okay. Yeah. Now we're at different levels. And the point I'm trying to make is not one is better than the other. It's just the way that they see how a relationship is. And that's the best way that I can describe it, is that, right?
Yeah.
So now they're not seeing eye to eye. So they have two different definitions, and both ultimately are unfulfilled.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the problem is, one, we don't know how to express that, right?
Yeah.
Like if you ask a guy, why isn't your relationship working? You're like, nah, it's her, right? And that's all he can literally say because he can't explain it. Yeah. And you say to the woman, hey, why isn't your relationship working? It's him, Yeah. And then all of a sudden, now it's just the blame game, and that is a perfect storm to ruin all relationships. And that's why America, I think, has just super high levels of divorce. It's just miscommunication.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's the whole miscommunication thing. But at the end of the day, the question was, can we cultivate a relationship? And I think yes. If you can get on the same page on what a relationship is, what is it that your partner wants, what is it that you want, and how can y'all fulfill that for each other? Everybody says relationships are 50-50, right? But technically they should be 100 both ways. Yeah. Because if you're only giving half, then that's what's
the other half going to?
Yeah. And then at the end of the day is, you will only ever receive a smaller portion of what you give. Again, remember we were talking about all that, right? And if you're only giving 50%, then you're going to expect less than 50% back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially when you feel like the other person's not giving anything.
Yeah.
Right? So you can be giving 100%, but they don't perceive it that way, then they're not going to give their 100% either.
Gotcha.
Right? So again, the question is, can we cultivate a relationship? And I think it's still yes.
Yeah.
But we do have to change the way society sees relationships, and then also the way that men are viewed in society.
Yeah.
Right. So I think one of the biggest hits is, again, like what you were saying, pride, ego, and then the fear of rejection that I had mentioned. You know, if we can put those to the side, you know, even temporarily, and have a real conversation, actually be vulnerable,
Yeah.
you know, then yeah, you can kind of progress, right? Because again, when we're talking about that survival cycle, and these people cannot even see themselves outside of that whatever situation that they're in, and they're worried about everything that's going on, and they don't even know if they're going to make it to the next day. How do they get out? Well, one of the ways, they have to see themselves being better than that.
Yeah.
Once they see themselves being better, they have to make sure not to take that into their next relationship. And that's how you break the cycle, is one, you broke it yourself, and you make sure not to continue it within your family, right? Your future family.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be how we do it. And it's going to take time, because there are a lot of people out there who are scarred, you know? And ultimately, I'm a big believer that everyone should be challenged in their life. You know, the people who do the best in business have been challenged. The people who do best in life, or whatever it is, or who do best in school, have gone through challenges in their childhood, and they overcame them, and then they still became something, right?
Yeah.
We always think it's a hero story of rags to riches or whatever it is, and like you overcame all of this, and despite that, you still became successful. But all of a sudden, you know, that's starting to become somewhat of a norm, because, you know, a lot of people think that, hey, this person was handed everything, and, you know, sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the people who I look up to, or I, you know, am happy for, proud for, all those things, is the people who were challenged, and despite those challenges, they still rose up, they still made something of themselves, they still give to community, and they still, you know, continue to do and be their best selves.
Yeah. They still kept pressing forward, regardless of, you know, how life was, you know, coming about, even if they created that chaos that was in their life, that's in their life. So
yeah, and I mean, you're always gonna have pieces of it, right?
Yeah.
You know, like there are just pieces of your childhood and the scars that you have. But the thing is the honest truth is, the difference between the people who are still in those situations versus the people who are out of those situations and still pushing forward is not much.
Yeah.
The only difference is the one who made it out saw themselves making it out. The ones who are still in it still see themselves in it.
Gotcha.
And that's it.
Yeah.
There's literally no other difference.
So back to the mindset of it.
That's it.
Yeah, I got you. 2 more questions.
Okay.
Do you think men are accountable for their actions? Do you think most men are accountable for their actions?
So is the question, should they be accountable for their questions? I mean,
For their actions?
Or are you saying just like in general?
In general, from kind of how, you know, the people that you hang out with, the men that you hang out with, do you find them mostly to be accountable for their actions, or do you see that they try to always blame something or somebody for, you know?
I'm not the best example, because I don't really hang out with a lot of people.
Got you.
You know this.
I got you. I got you.
Very to myself. Okay.
Got you.
And as I get older, I think I'm getting weirder.
Yeah.
Somebody pointed that out to me the other day. I'm not really used to dealing with people.
Yeah.
But you know, the main thing is, I think what you're trying to ask is in terms of like society.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe, how do I see other people? Like the interactions that I do see, I think a lot of people like to try, or even playfully try to blame other people for their actions. So in terms of accountability, it's going to be yes or no, right? Because at the same time, if they see that there are issues, right, they will continue to stay issues, just like when you're saying, like, look, I see problems all the time, and then now I see solutions, right, to those problems, or how am I going to fix it? And that is going to be the huge difference between the issue that we're in. Are we being accountable for it, or are we blaming other people? And I will tell you, for everybody listening, myself included. Whenever you blame other people, you're never going to get better.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, it does end up being you that has most to do with it.
Yeah.
Okay? The best advice I honestly ever heard is, a lot of people have increased rates of anxiety, depression, and different things like that. I challenge you as listeners, I do this myself. Write down a list of everything that is stressing you out, making you anxious, or, ultimately making you feel sad. Write a list of all of those. Okay. And I want you to cross out every single one that you have no control over. Okay. Time, we'll move on. We can't control as time passes. We can't control what other people do. And we can't control, maybe life, that 10% of life that happens to us. But what we can control is how we react to certain things, how we carry ourselves, and ultimately how we grow as a person. And what can we do despite those things that are happening? Now, what you're left with is a list of things that you get to go to work on.
Gotcha.
And that you can improve and make progress.
Yeah. That's good, man. I like that. So many nuggets in this podcast. Yeah. Y'all are going to walk away and be like, who is this Josh guy? He's awesome. Last question. Super loaded. I did not give you a heads up. The
heads up you gave me was
20
like my
minutes
drive
ago.
over here.
20 minutes ago.
You're like, hey, this is what I'm going to ask you. I'm not even going to leave this, man.
I meant to send it to you last night.
I figured.
But I got a little busy, and so I was like, oh, snaps. Because I won.
What's your name?
Well, yeah, no. Yeah. It's No Nut November, man, so no one's...
Wait, what?
No Nut November. Yeah.
And I'm doing no shave.
Yeah.
For those of you on the camera.
So it's Adam. I called him last week. Like, hey, be on the podcast. Okay. 9:00 comes. He doesn't show up. I'm like, what? So I'm like, hey, where you at? Never send me the address, bro. I'm like, oh my gosh.
He's like, where my
yeah, right. And so,
you live and you learn.
I almost did that to you too. I woke up this morning and was like, you know what? Let me just send him the address and the question so we don't have that. Yeah. So, last question is, what impact do you want to leave on this world?
Oh man, I love that.
Okay, awesome.
I love that question. So, I want to disclaim it first by, where I am in my life is probably different than maybe where your listeners are, right?
Yeah.
But what I challenge you to see is, there isn't much of a difference. I work hard for everything that I have, and no one can take that away from me.
Yeah.
Anybody who says, oh man, you're lucky or whatever. I said, yes, I am lucky, but honestly, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't ever say it in terms of that I'm cocky or anything like that, right? So, I like to tell everybody, I'm like, look, I'll never dress up. If you want me to dress up for something, you need to tell me ahead of time, because I'm probably going to show up like this t-shirt and slides.
Yeah.
And so you better tell me if I need to dress up. Like the other day we took freaking headshots.
Yeah.
Showed up. I was like, I had a polo in my truck. I was like, I guess I'll put this on. And then everybody's all in like suits and ties, and I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Why didn't y'all tell me to dress up?
It was a headshot.
Yeah,
man.
I know. That's what I said. You just see my face. You don't need my body.
You're going to need like a little bit of your chest.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Okay, but then I was like, I didn't know what a headshot was.
I got you. Well, good. You're getting cultured, man. That's growth is what that is. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, all right? For if y'all are like YPO listeners,
yeah,
y'all should have told me. But anyway, going back to the impact that I want to have. I have big goals, big dreams. And where I started, I'll tell you, we're just like lower middle class when I grew up. I had some things in terms of growing up that some other people didn't have. My dad, he worked every single day, very, very hard. I rarely saw him, and my mom basically took care of us. But from that, I didn't have everything, right? But at the same time, I knew what it looked like to work hard to get where you needed to get, right? So I saw my dad grew up on the streets. He's homeless for a while. but he made something of his life, and I owed it to him to be better because of the opportunities that he afforded me, right?
Yeah.
So from the sweat of his back and everything like that, it would be doing him a disservice to not do better,
yeah.
right? So for me, the ultimate compliment that I can do for my parents is to do better and to leave a strong impact on the world, you know?
Yeah.
So I did want to preface that, you know, because I have really big dreams.
Yeah.
And like I said, for those of you that are listening, you know, you're in that survival cycle. I want you to know that there is a way out, and there is a way to get here, you know? It's not terribly far, and all it is your mindset. You just got to change the way that you think, because until you change the way that you think and the people that you hang around, everything's just going to stay the same. So you got to move forward and all of that, and then you can get here. So whenever you're asking me, what kind of impact do I want to have? Well, I always think of it in this way, and it might be a little dark, but at the same time, I think, what do I want people to say at my funeral?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the thing is, you know, I want people to just say that, you know, he loved and was loved, but you know, he also gave and helped a lot of people. Like every time he went into a room, you know, he made other people feel good about themselves or laugh, or he challenged me to be better, and that's honestly. That's the ultimate compliment for me, is if somebody could say that about me, you know? And you know, I hope that is what this does, and I hope it does that for other people. I hope that we're able to get you know, you out of whatever situation it is that you're in. I think that all of us struggle, and the struggle is there for a reason. Embrace it, you know, embrace that struggle, because whenever you're out, that's what ultimately is going to make you a stronger person. You know, we've all been through some crazy crap. You know, I had a near-death experience, and you know, I embraced it. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, you ask me impact, right? This is my why. You're asking me to put it into words, but it is a feeling that. Ultimately that I'm trying to describe, right? And there is nothing tangible. There's no numerical value to this, right? So you're basically asking me to explain a why, and I'm trying to put it in what or how form.
Got
right?
you.
So for me, what that looks like is, you know, ultimately being able to build like foundations that I can give back to. You know, I see myself having, you know, obviously a lot of money where I can live the way I need to live, and trust me, I live very frugally, you know. We have a lot of nice things, but at the same time, I mean, you know, we're out here trying to make a difference. So one of the biggest things I feel like that I'm working on currently is, you know, I'm buying and fixing houses, and these houses are super crappy. And I think a lot of people think, oh man, this guy makes a lot of money on flipping houses. And the thing is like, hey, who else is going to take the risk? Who else is going to fix that ugly, crappy house and make it livable so that somebody can actually enjoy a house? You know? And the thing is there's a ton of risk in that. And that is something that I focus on. But the way I see it is we're improving the community. We're increasing the value of the homes. And this is my home, you know, Odessa. I'm born and raised here. And this is where I want to be. I want to focus and improve it. And that's what I did with the spa. You know, we bought a crappy building basically and refixed it, and it looks nice and everybody loves it, and it's just something that we didn't have here. So I'm continuing to do that. That is like my mission. I'm trying to do that just across the area here, but I mean, I do see this expanding beyond that. Now with that said, as you notice, I'm not really throwing out numbers, if you will, but ultimately I do have big dreams and aspirations, and in terms of impact, I mean, I really do. I just want to be able to help a lot of people. And I know that sounds pretty cliche, but the way I see it, the way I do it, I just try to do it every day. And then at the end of the day, I try to live by what I told you. Grow, give, and
gratitude. Love it, man. I love it. Well, I appreciate you jumping on and having this conversation with me. I know that there's a lot of nuggets in this podcast that I'm taking away, but I know there's going to be a lot of people also taking away from, you know, you coming on and being open and vulnerable and transparent for just a little bit. You know what I mean? You still didn't say I love you back, but I'll give you.
That's my middle name.
I'll let you slide on that one. All right, so y'all have a great day, and catch us up on the next episode.
Hey, well, thank you so much for having me, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And for daily, motivational, and up-to-date content, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Excellence Above Talent. And remember, keep moving forward, never give up, and you are never alone in this battle. We'll see you next time.